Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, thank you very much for this possibility. And allow me to say something personal in the beginning of my speech. As I have been introduced, I am the Prime Minister of Slovakia, a very small country in the center of Europe. It has only 5.5 million inhabitants. And of course, we are very open economy and the country, and everything in my country very much depends on what's going on in Germany, France, or other countries of Europe. So please, everything what I'm going to say, I believe in. Maybe views of people living in big countries can be completely different from mine, but that's my personal view. And once again, what I'm going to say, I really personally believe in. So, Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, once again, let me start with the appreciation of having the opportunity to speak to you at such an extraordinary place. I am glad to be here, especially as I have been informed to be the first Slovak representative. Today, I'd like to share with you the Slovak view on the state of play, the past and the future of the European project, of our European project. I will start off with a short history of Slovakia as the best illustration to explain our attitude towards the European Union, the process of further deepening of integration and the enlargement of the European Union. Then I will move to current European topics to explain our expectations concerning the future. And in conclusion, I will try to sum up the key ideas of my presentation. Slovakia commemorates the 20th anniversary of its independent statehood this year. Throughout these 2 decades, we have proved that we form a mature and responsible nation. We have proved that we can manage our domestic affairs democratically and lead our country towards prosperity and stability, to pay our debts and show solidarity to those in need. Our targets were set clearly, and they were supported by the population, even if they were accompanied by hard reforms with a negative short-term effects. Today we are respected members of the European Union and NATO, and this forms the basis of our commitment to contribute actively to their further strengthening. Our independent path began with the peaceful split of Czechoslovakia. The velvet divorce, as we know it today, has become a trademark for our nations. We managed to build excellent relations between our countries and nations, maybe better than before. Just recently in Bratislava, at the Globsec conference, Zbigniew Brzezinski said that the split of Czechoslovakia and the relations we were able to build up are proof of a mature democracy. Especially after 1998, we have intensified our efforts, and in 2004, we have successfully joined both NATO and the European Union. However, our integration enthusiasm did not vanish. In 2007, we joined the Schengen zone, and in 2009, the Eurozone. Why did we aspire to join NATO and the European Union? In short, NATO is really the best guarantee for security, and security is the basis for development in all other domains. Cooperation in security makes it more cost-effective. The existence of the Article 5 of the North Atlantic Treaty makes it not only an alliance of security cooperation, but a real defense alliance. All NATO members are democratic states, respecting human rights and freedoms, and the organization is consensus-based. Looking at these facts, there was no better alternative to enhance our security as the membership in NATO. Even this topic is very interesting because you all know that before 1989, Czechoslovakia used to be a member of the Warsaw Pact. So sometimes it is very interesting to discuss how minds of people in Czechoslovakia or in Slovakia have been changed because of entry of Slovakia into NATO. Almost using the same optic, the European Union presented the model of a successful economic cooperation that has transformed itself into a new level of political cooperation in early 90s. It has been the model of economic and political cooperation in Europe based on common values of democracy and respect to human rights and freedoms. It has been very inspiring for Slovakia and other countries in the Central Europe, just like it is still today for our friends in the Western Balkans. The vision of prosperity and single European market has also been attractive, but the main integration driver has been to return democracy to Slovakia in the post-Cold War era and to anchor it there. The Slovak integration path to the European Union and NATO has not been easy. We had to take difficult decisions, implement reforms which had a short-term negative impact on the majority of our population. At that time, it has been extremely difficult to explain the necessity of each and every step. But the crisis proved that we were in relatively good condition and as one of the few countries able to restart growth soon, limited but still growth when comparing with the other EU members. We are among leaders in growth in the Eurozone. Short before the start of economic crisis, Slovakia joined the Eurozone. All the major decisions were taken just at its outbreak, and as of January 1st, 2009, we have started to use the common currency. Past years, there were some discussions, doubts, whether it has been a good decision for Slovakia to join the euro at that particular point in the time. Looking back from today's perspective, I still believe that it has been a good and a timely decision. And I'm very happy to say that there are other countries in the European Union that wish to join Eurozone as soon as possible, and I'd like to mention mainly Poland, because Poland is really a very important country in the center of Europe. I will not continue to spell out all milestones of Slovak integration to European Union or NATO. If you are interested in some specific issues, please feel free to ask a question at the end of my presentation. Now I will turn to the recent topics. The debt crisis is an unprecedented challenge. The situation in Europe, European Union, is serious, but it is not a catastrophe, though there is an overall tendency to portray the reality in darker colors than it is. It would be naive to think that the perfect solution could be found overnight. Almost 5 years passed already since the crisis broke out. We still don't have the perfect solution. Fortunately, we have identified the roots of the crisis. And I believe that it's only a question of time when the European Union will be able to put on the table right solutions. We have the ability to take decisive actions. Many pieces of the puzzle have already been agreed and adopted. ESM, Fiscal Compact, Compact for Growth and Jobs, etc., etc. To regain the trust of the markets and of our own citizens, it will be crucial how thorough and consistent we will be now in the implementation. Fiscal consolidation is the cornerstone in the process of the economic recovery. On the EU level, we have taken a number of measures in order to ensure better budgetary discipline. In Slovakia, we are working hard to fulfill the task of pushing down the level of public finances deficit. We intend to meet our deficit target below 3% of GDP this year. The consolidation effort does not end in 2013. We will continue to decrease our deficit of public finances with the medium-term goal of bringing Slovakia's structural deficit below 0.5% of GDP. However, consolidation efforts shall not ignore other important economic aspects. We have to take into account the high level of unemployment. I have to admit that in Slovakia we have more than 14% people unemployed, and we have also a very high level of young people unemployed in my country. So we really have to take into account unemployment, especially among young people, and focus our efforts on generating growth and tackling unemployment. Lack of action on growth and employment could lead to a lost generation among the youth and increase social tension. Thus, we are prepared to discuss the optimal pace of consolidation in the future so as to ensure a proper balance between fiscal consolidation and economic growth. This is a very interesting discussion in the European Union. There are countries that believe that very rapid fiscal consolidation is the best medicine how to fight with the crisis. But there are also countries in the European Union that believe that we should also invest, not only cut public investments. And I suppose that in the next summit at the end of May in Brussels, these two groups of countries will meet. And it will be very, very interesting and very important discussion for the whole European Union. We welcome that the European Council reiterated the importance of targeting youth unemployment. We will follow closely and implement those EU initiatives which could improve the perspectives of youth. Last year, we made use of the reallocation of EU funds to tackle youth unemployment, but if rules for the use of the EU structural funds were less rigid, we could do even more. In the context of consolidation efforts, I must also stress another important principle. The same rules must apply to all EU member states, big or small alike. If there is to be flexibility on the speed of fiscal consolidation, it must be equally applicable to all member states. Just to explain, for instance, Slovakia, as I have said already, has to decrease deficit below 3% in 2013. And all member states of the European Union have commitments to do something in 2013. 1 or 2 weeks ago, I visited France and Spain. These two countries, for instance, they want to open during the next session of the European Council the issue whether it is necessary to keep this commitment in 2013. And they would like to have a higher deficit as negotiated in the past. This is very dangerous. Once again, we are ready, small countries as Slovakia, to take part in the discussion about the pace of consolidation, but rules must be applicable equally for all countries. If there are exemptions, this is not a good signal for the markets and for the European Union. As I have already stated, we should take lessons from the history. Let me mention just one concrete example of adopting measures and instruments in practice. The Stability and Growth Pact has been broken 60 times without any consequences. We can see the consequences today. If all the existing instruments set out in the pact were applied correctly, the situation today would probably be completely different. We have learned hard lessons. Adopted rules need to be enforceable. To regain confidence and trust, we have to stick to our own rules. I suppose you know a lot about main documents of the European Union. There was so-called Lisbon Strategy. According to Lisbon Strategy, European Union should be in 2012-2011 the most competitive region in the world. What is the result? Just compare India, compare Brazil, compare China, even Vietnam with the European Union, and you will see results. Now, or recently, we have adopted a new document which is called Europe 2020. The goals are very ambitious. The question is whether we are able to reach these goals and whether these documents are only formal documents or real documents. Another lesson we learned is that there are no isolated problems in Europe, especially in economy. No matter if we are in the Eurozone or outside, no matter if we are equipped with permanent or non-permanent opt-outs. We need to work together and to seek common solutions. I'd like to underline common solutions. We have to listen to each other, understand each other's points, and find mutually accepted solutions. There is no individual solution in current situation. The European Union is our own project. It is not imposed upon us from outside. We have joined it voluntarily. As the time and circumstances evolve, so does the European Union, and we are part of it. It is not an ideal creature, and it has many flaws. Solutions to its flaws should be found as a result of a discussion of all parties concerned. Let me now move to the issue of the future of the European project and the Slovak view concerning it. In fact, the debate on the future of the EU is already underway. Let me just recall Van Rompuy's 4 pillars proposal for a new Europe, or Barroso's blueprint for a deep and genuine European monetary union. Prime Minister Cameron has joined in the discussion with a substantive contribution, and the review of the balance of competencies between the UK and the EU recently launched by the British government can provide another important impact. In our country, a decision was taken to relaunch our National Convention on the EU with the aim of discussing openly with all the stakeholders concerned, including independent experts and wider public, the state of play of the European project, the challenges it faces today as well as its future. Discussion and reflection on Europe and its future must be based on facts, not on myth and prejudices. Reform of the Union, forming its future strategic direction, is a complex process. Perhaps another European Convention will be convened, as it has been more than 10 years ago, to the topic of European Constitution. We haven't reached the Constitution, but the process brought up fresh thinking and helped to move the Union to a new stage. In my view, Europe has always been a work in progress. It has been different in the 90s. It was changing during our accession process, and it is still evolving. That is what makes the Union so strong, the ability of Europeans to seek and find joint solutions. Today, what we need is a vision and leadership. Let's not forget that the European Union is foremost a successful peace project. We are glad to be part of it. We see it as a contribution to European and world security that deserves to be developed further. Today, when the EU copes with a certain mainly economic and financial challenges, we need new enthusiasm as well as courage to seek solutions that would bring new impulses for integration and that would strengthen solidarity among the nations and states on our continent. That is the most effective barrier to nationalism and populism that has the tendency to regain ground in times of crisis. This is also a very important topic for politicians in the European Union. We understand that it is responsibility of standard political parties to tackle with the problems and to find solutions. Because if it will not be standard political parties, it will be non-standard political movements and people that can be very dangerous in the future, not only for political systems, but also for states and for positions of states in the European Union. We will not be able to succeed unless we respect 2 principles crucial for the European Union: responsibility and solidarity. All member states have to responsibly fulfill their commitments and consolidate the public finances. If they do so, they can rely on the European solidarity. Ignoring the principle of responsibility can lead to fragmentation, creation of more speeds in Europe. We strongly prefer inclusive approach and sticking to the idea of unified Europe of 28, because as you know, Croatia will become a new member state of the European Union. But if the 2 or more speed approach is the way forward in fiscal, economic and ultimately political integration, Slovakia wishes to stay at the forefront. In our view, it is important to avoid that the vanguard moves too far away from the rest of the European Union, and it is equally important to ensure that those who are the least enthusiastic and wish to remain out will not block or prevent those who are in from taking action. The core must keep the process inclusive. The way forward for us is more and closer Europe. Otherwise, we will be marginalized. It is not just more Europe, but a better Europe as well. More Europe does not necessarily mean more regulation and more bureaucracy. To address current challenges, we need more accountability, both at EU, national level, as well as corporate level. For instance, banks, they have their share in the crisis. We need more responsibility in the management of public finances. We need more enforcement of agreed rules. We need more coordination and information sharing. In the club, we need to know what the other members are doing. We need more confidence on the markets. In the wider context, there is a need for more member states, conclusion of the unfinished business in the enlargement process. Slovakia belongs among those countries in the European Union that really supports without any problems enlargement of the European Union. At the same time, I know countries, member states of the European Union, that are not in favor of further enlargement of the European Union. And this will be also a very interesting topic probably in next years, because I know a lot of active countries in the Europe that would like to join the European Union as soon as possible. We also need more free trade. We really need free trade agreements with the United States, Japan, India, Latin America, ASEAN, or Ukraine, or other countries. We need more EU influence, and we need more security and better EU-NATO cooperation. All this shows that more does not necessarily mean a bad thing. The question we have to pose in each individual case is whether more is better. If that is the case, we should not hesitate in moving integration to higher levels. This also means that in cases where less is better, the EU could and should deregulate. It is crucial that we proceed in this evaluation together. We created the union between all the member states, not individually with Brussels. Should each of us create our own specific relations with Brussels, that would lead to creating 27 little unions. This is not the way forward. Along with the determination and political courage to address the current challenges, we need one more crucial element. We must have our citizens on board. We need to bring the Union closer to its citizens. I am not questioning the legitimate credentials of our leaders when adopting decisions in European Council, nor I am questioning the democratic mandate of the European Parliament. But I do believe that we are doing a lucid job in communicating European agenda to our citizens. We do not do this sufficiently, and we do not do this in a way that people can understand. We will not succeed unless our citizens know what we do and why we do it. This is what we call democratic legitimacy. The public must be informed where we are heading, and we must have a feedback from our citizens to be sure that they agree with what we do. Let's not forget, decisions in Brussels are always taken by legitimate chiefs of governments and ministers who derive their powers from democratic national parliaments. I would guess they do not lack democratic legitimacy. And furthermore, the European Parliament, the members of which are our directly elected representatives, has a decisive power in almost all crucial decisions. I think the problem lies elsewhere. We must by all means try to keep our public informed. We must learn to speak a language understandable for public and stop using the genderless jargon of Brussels bureaucrats. People often, and I admit sometimes even myself, simply do not understand it, and they are then surprised and disappointed to see what it means in real life. We must explain that this or that step is needed, not because some elite in Brussels behind the closed doors wants to realize its dreams, but because it is a logical step reflecting the depth and level of integration that we reached and the challenges we are facing. Frankly speaking, sometimes please take conclusions of the European Council. It's so difficult reading. If I start to read these conclusions somewhere among people, 99.5% of people will not understand anything. Anything. This is a real problem of the communication of the European Union. As I have already said, not everything is negative. We have to keep in our minds the strengths and positive sides of European integration. And this is soft power. Regardless of its problems, the EU remains the most successful model of integration. Politically, economically, still it is the biggest economy in the world in terms of GDP, biggest common market in the world, biggest investor in most parts of the world, and last but not least, biggest provider of humanitarian assistance. At the same time, it is the most successful model of integration in terms of human rights protection. I do not know a region in the world where the system of protection of human rights would be so elaborated as it is in case of the European Union and the Council of Europe. The European Union generated its soft power by its ability to lead by example, by our courage to be the front runners who can provide best practices. Our power to inspire. Many regions in the world try to follow our integration model. Our power to transform based on a simple mechanism. We do not transform our partners, we make them transform themselves. Look at Central Europe 20 years ago and now. This all makes the EU a global player. It is our responsibility to live up to this rule and to the expectation of other regions that see us as an example. No doubt, the crisis further deepens and accelerates the impact of globalization. We need to be honest and realistic about Europe's position in the global landscape. Loss of certain positions over the last decades is an objective process, and we need to adjust to it. We should not underestimate our strength. At the same time, we should not be overambitious. Our climate change policy is to a certain extent an example. We learned very tough lessons in Copenhagen. Once again, very interesting topic for discussion, because after we adopted very tough measures on the protection of environment, now a lot of discussion is among prime ministers whether some holiday wouldn't be nice from these very tough measures how to protect environment. Because if I compare Europe with Ukraine, China and India and the level of protection of environment, you understand very well that it is very easy for some type of business to be located in China, India, but not in the center of Europe. Although we are logically quite embarrassed by the euro crisis, we should have courage to say that the EU remains attractive enough for others. Even in these challenging times, we should not forget that there is a life outside the European Union. We want to have our neighbors on our side to implement our standards and values, rather than to let the space open for instability or turbulences. We must not resign from our global role. We have no right to do so. We should not get lost in our interim problems and leave behind our ambitions to play an active role in providing stability and prosperity abroad, especially in our direct periphery. Strong and united Europe is important not just for us, but for the whole international community. The European perspective played a major role for the transformation of my country and our region. That is one of the reasons why we advocate strongly maintaining this perspective alive for others. This responsibility currently applies in particular to our neighboring regions. Western Balkans is the EU's unfinished business. We keep explaining our partners that they can expect our support but not mercy. EU enlargement provides European perspective, not charity. To achieve the goal of membership, they have to perform the same way all countries that joined the EU last 10 years. Slovakia is ready to provide its experience and support. And let's not forget, the European perspective is bringing results even in such sensitive issues as the dialogue between Belgrade and Pristina is. Eastern Partnership is a bit different story though. It's a long-term and open-ended project. The end stage of the process depends primarily on what our partners make out of it. Moldova and Georgia are showing that transformation and democratization is possible also in the East or even on the Caucasus. Though our Ukrainian friends give us headaches, we need to continue working with them. It is in Slovak interest to have an EU-compatible neighbor. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to sum up. The EU is what the members make out of it. The preferred option is to move forward together. Individual action rather harms than helps. The respect for existing rules of the game is the main prerequisite of successful cooperation. We have to behave responsibly. Everything in Europe is interconnected. Our behavior, our actions, and even our words influence the others. We have learned how important solidarity is. Solidarity is the cornerstone of the European project. Yet, there is no solidarity without responsibility. There are no rights without duties. The EU membership is not cherry-picking. The European acquis may not be to everybody's liking in all its parts, but that is the nature of every good compromise. Doing your own homework is an axiom. This applies for countries aspiring for the EU membership, but even more for the current EU members, which is often forgotten. Determination. We had a period in the 90s when we missed the integration train. We have learned that one cannot play both sides. Only a clear vision and firm determination allowed us to catch up. Bringing the EU closer to its citizens is vital for maintaining its legitimacy. And from the point of view of Slovakia, there is no better alternative to EU membership in Europe. Thank you very much.